Hello everyone, welcome to this video. My name is Nienke. I'm a Dutch girl living in Poland, Dutch woman living in Poland. And a few weeks ago I visited the Emigration Museum in Gdynia, and it fascinated me a lot. So I have a huge love for Poland. If you don't know me, just watch a few of my videos and you will see and feel. And also the Polish history is really interesting to me. I really feel like I need like glasses for this video because I really feel like a teacher right now, probably the whole video, but okay. So I went to this museum and I realized that Polish people are everywhere in the world, like even more spread out than the Dutch people. And many say that the Dutch people are true explorers, like already since the past. That's why I was really surprised when I saw that Poles are even in more countries than the Dutch people are, and even more so because the reason why Polish people are everywhere is very different than from the Dutch people. And even some Polish people were like really surprised by this list of top 10 cities where the most Polish people are. So let's talk about it some more, because I want to connect with people from all over the world, and also especially Polish people who live outside of Poland. And I just want the world to know more about this special country. So this video will be the first in a series about Poles around the world. It teaches a lot about Poland's history as well, because the reasons are so diverse why they went to places they went to. Because in total there are like 60 million Poles, of which 20 million are outside of Poland, are living outside of Poland. And that's huge. That's huge. It's one of the largest in the world and one of the most widely spread out of the world. And in Poland we call this large population a Polonia, which is called the Polish diaspora. And but where did they go and why did they leave? So that's what this series is about. It will be like around 12 videos or something like that, because there's a lot to talk about. And this first video is an overview, and it's about the cities where the largest Polish populations are. And so that will be the first. So it will be the top 10. So let's get started. So on number 10, we have Melbourne, Australia. There are around like 50,000 Polish Australians in Australia, of which most live in Melbourne, and most of them came after the Second World War, like with a peak in the 1980s. And there's even a Polish festival every year since 2004. And this year there was even like the 60th birthday, like anniversary of the Polish Community Council of Victoria. So yes, the relationships between Australia and Poland is a beautiful one. And there's even a cafe called Borscht, Vodka and Tears. And there they sell like Polish soups and Polish vodka. So yeah, this will be continued. There will be a whole video about Australia and Poland and Polish people in Australia, but that's for later. Yeah, I have some sheets so I know what to say, because I know a lot, but I also need my my sheets to see if I don't forget about anything, like a real teacher. So on number 9, there is Vilnius. That's the capital of Lithuania. And obviously one of Poland's neighbors. And Lithuania is even like, Lithuania plays a big part in Poland's history. And we will talk about it more in the video about Lithuania and Poland. But it has it is a city with a large Polish community, obviously, because of the past. And there are more than 85,000 Polish people in Vilnius, which is around 15% of the total population of the city. And Polish people already came here in the 14th century, so that's how rich the history of Lithuania and Poland is. And because Poland and Lithuania were even like one country in the past, there were even times where Polish was the first language of the city. But after World War I, they became separate countries again, and a lot happened since. So that will be a story for another video, because that's such a special story to tell as well. So for number 8 and 7, we will go to the other side of the world, namely the USA. And number 8 is Milwaukee. It's a city in Wisconsin. Wisconsin. And Poles came here like in the 1850s in search for work opportunities to find a better life for their families as well. Most came from, and in this part of USA, most came from regions of Poznan, Silesia, and the Baltic Sea coast, and they a little bit followed the Germans to the USA, because that part of Poland was also in the past part of Germany. And in 1874, for example, there were 7,000 Poles in the city, and by the end of 1880, there were 30,000. And in 1910, there were even like 70,000, and 5 years later, it reached 100,000. So there was a really, really fast growth of Polish people in that city. And they formed really strong communities. And one of the streets is even known as the Polish Grand Avenue. A lot of organizations were also formed here. And like, for example, the Polish Women's Cultural Club of Milwaukee and the Polonia Sport Club. So even though this population is now smaller than it was in the past, there are still the Polish Americans who keep like the Polish history alive in this part of the world, because they are so proud of it and it has to be known like worldwide. And similar on number 7, we have Buffalo, that's in the New York state. And it's funny because here the Polish people also start to come around 1850, but these Polish people came from the other regions of Poland, like they were that were part of like the Russia Empire. And these were mostly Jewish people who came. And there was even a Pole, I thought he was called Piotr Statnicki, that he is claimed to be one of the founders of the city, even one of the founders of Buffalo, but it's not proven, but it's said. But why did the Polish people choose Buffalo? Why did they choose Buffalo? Because after 1860, Catholic Poles also came in large numbers. And between 1873 and 1922, Polish Americans established 34 churches in Greater Buffalo and Western New York. So you can imagine that it was like a really strong community feeling to go there and like, you know, join the Polish families and the Polish church communities. Because for Polish people, the church and the faith and the religion is very important. So Maybe that's one of the reasons why they chose Buffalo, because the community was there so strong. Buffalo became even the home of the Polish Union of America, and this city is a sister city of Rzeszów, and this is a Polish city in the east of Poland. I also visited that city, it's really nice. And it has the oldest and largest religious radio network in the Polish language. So that's also quite special. And then for number 6, we go back to Europe, namely London. So this is a special story of itself because the Polish government had their seat in London from 1940 till 1989. So the beginning of World War II till the end of the communist regime. And many Poles emigrated to London as well because of the war. And a lot of them were part of the military units who were fighting for World War II from the UK. And many of UK and France, many of them couldn't return to Poland because of the communism and strong border rules. So of course then you have their children and grandchildren who stayed and grew up in London. And there was a third wave in 2004 when Poland joined the EU, and a lot of Poles went around to search for better jobs and better economic circumstances for them and their families. So of course there are a lot of Polish restaurants and bars in London, and a Polish radio station, and even Polish cultural institutes and churches. But it seems though that now, since Brexit, more Poles are returning to Poland, which is kind of logical. So now we go up to number 5, to a new country, Canada, and this city is Toronto. And again, 1870 is where it all began. Around 200,000 Polish people now live in Toronto. And there's, for example, one neighborhood, I don't know how you pronounce it, Bronsfels, that has many Polish establishments, and once a year a Polish festival with Polish music and folk dance takes place there. And this neighborhood is even known as Little Poland, and people even visit that side of the city to experience Little Poland. There are signs at stores and restaurants which even say "Mówimy po polsku," which means we speak Polish. And I think that's a really funny detail to know and to witness. So I would love to visit also Toronto and then visit Little Poland to just experience it myself. And same as to other cities, Polish people also came here because of the difficult conditions in Poland, like in Polish villages, and the overpopulation and lack of economic opportunities in the cities. But more about that in a different video. And number 4, we have New York City. The city for a better future. So a lot of Polish people came here by boat, those big ships, and not only political dissidents came here for a safer life, but also the normal Poles came here between 1850 and World War I to find work and to improve the quality of life, especially for their families. And most of them settled in Greenpoint, and that's home to New York's largest Polish community. It's in Greenpoint. It even looks and sounds like a city in Poland if you are there, because of the many conversations in Polish. So when I go to New York, and I will definitely do, then I will spend the whole day probably in Greenpoint to just experience this myself. It will be very, very interesting. So a lot of hard-working Poles also sent money back to their families who stayed in Poland. And there's a wave going on now of people returning back to Poland. So there's like a story that there are bestsellers in the Greenpoint's bookstores, of which one is called, for example, Returning to Poland. So there's a wave going on now, and that's also really interesting, I think. So now we go to the top three of cities with the largest Polish communities in the world, after Poland, of course. So number three lies in Europe again, and this is Paris, like the romantic city of Paris, the city of artists, where I also feel like a really special feeling when I am there. So between half a million and a million Poles live in France, of which around 300,000 in Paris. And the most well known are Frédéric Chopin and Marie Curie. So Paris is special because there are many reasons why Polish people came to France and Paris. For example, the failed November uprising in 1830, which is known as the Great Emigration, but more about that as well in different videos. A lot of high intellectual Poles came to Paris and came to France and became really great ambassadors of Poland, because they achieved such big individual achievements in science, technology, literature, and music. So it's not a surprise that people worldwide think, for example, that Chopin is France because he spent a lot of time in Paris. But we know he wasn't. He's a Pole because his heart even rests in Poznan. I visited that as well, his heart in one of those churches. And the same is true with Marie Curie, because a lot of people think she's France. She was married to a Frenchman. So her real name is Maria Skłodowska. Maria Skłodowska. That's her Polish name. But of course she married, so her last name became Curie. But she is Polish. She even named the radioactive element polonium after her homeland. So, I mean, more about this later, because there will be also a different video, Polish people in Paris. So number two was the most surprising for me, and even for Polish people I know, they were like really surprised by this number two. And number two is Curitiba. Sorry for my pronunciation, I don't know. Curitiba. And this city in Brazil has around 400,000 Polish people, or like people with Polish roots. Because Polish immigrants here became arriving in Brazil in the late 90s, to find a better life, and most of them came from Eastern Poland again. They worked, for example, as small farmers. And the thing is, with why they came to Brazil, and particularly this city, is because the Brazilian government encouraged the establishment of new immigrants to Curitiba by funding their journey from other parts of Brazil to the city. And they created even several colonial agricultural centers, so the Polish people could come here and like work there, and that's why so many came to that specific city in Brazil. And the Pope even visited the city in the 1980s. So that's how important this place became for, Polish people and Poland and Brazil, like the relationships between the two. And even one of the city's architects was a Pole. Fun fact. There's even a large park named after the Pope, like John Paul II. There's a well-known restaurant specialized in pierogi. I have to go there when I'm in Brazil. I love pierogi. And there's a successful amateur football club. And a really nice detail is that they have the Polish eagle on their shirts. That's awesome, right? It's a surprising, beautiful story, which I have to tell in like a different video. Otherwise, this one will be way too long. So last but not least, number one, and maybe some of you already know and already guess, because this one is like really well known, and it's Chicago. So more than 1 million people with Polish roots live in this American city. Also here, the first Polish people came around 1820s, 1830s, I mean, to flee from the November uprising. And a strong Polish community was formed where more and more Polish families joined. And most of them came so for the economic reasons, what I talked about earlier. And of course, Chicago had a lot of growing industries, and they needed hard workers. And you know, the Poles were known as hard workers, so they welcomed the Poles like with open arms. But the story is not like that romantic, but I will tell that in a different video. So Polish businesses and shops also appeared, and restaurants, even though most Polish people had to learn English to be part of like the city and like the life there. They still kept Polish a little bit alive, but because they spoke mostly English, there was like a new dialect formed, and they call it Chicagosku. Chicagosku. That's a mixture between English and Polish words, and that's typical for Chicago. So I really want to listen to people talking like that, because I think it will be really interesting to hear. And the Polish Roman Catholic Union and the Polish Women's Alliance were founded here. The people here, the Polish people here, always hold like strong connections and bonds with their homeland. For example, 10,000 men from Chicago with Polish roots joined the US military to fight in World War I, to fight for Poland's freedom. So that's a beautiful story to tell in another video. And in 1980, there was the creation of the Copernicus Cultural Center. And yes, Nicholas Copernicus was also a Pole. A lot of people don't know that, but he was from Poland as well. And this center serves cultural, educational, and entertainment purposes, all in connection with Poland. And the building was even designed to resemble the royal castle in Warsaw. So is it even the city with the largest Polish population after Warsaw? We will find that out later. So as you could hear, there's enough, more than enough to learn and to talk about in more videos. And I will definitely do that, because I'm really excited about learning about all of this. And it tells all of the story about Poland, and the strong, how all Polish people, even when they leave Poland and don't live here anymore, have like their strong heart still in Poland, and always will feel that connection. So yeah, I will continue this series. I hope you liked it, and subscribe for more. Not only for this series, but also to, experience Poland through my eyes, to explore Poland with me. And zapraszam cię. Bye!